We're not doing anything about it.
Now, let's raise the question, which certainly is dealt with in the film. Yeah. Have minimum wages, which is a form of government intervention, serve the interests of the poor and indeed of the working class generally? Now, I know you've spent a good deal of time looking at this. I'd like you to come in on it too.
Okay, well, at least from the standpoint of teenagers, particularly minority teenagers, the minimum wage law has acted to destroy a number of employment opportunities. For example, back in 1948, the black youth between 16 and 18 had an unemployment rate of 9.4%, and white youth was 10.4%, 10.2%. The labor force participation rates of blacks was considerably higher than that of whites. And with each increase in the minimum wage law, we had the dramatic reversal that we have now. And so the minimum wage law has the effects of saying that if you cannot produce $2.90 worth of goods an hour, you don't deserve a job.
But and I don't think you can't look just at minimum wage. You got to look at the relocation of firms. You've got to look at the movement of people. You can't do that.
Well, you look at relocation of firms. A lot of people try to say a lot of jobs move up to the suburbs. Well, you find black-white unemployment ratios the same in the suburbs as you find in the cities. So it's the minimum wage.
You're taking one element. You're taking one element out of a long historic development.
And
when you start comparing 1948,
even if Lynn is next, Lynn and then Ernest Green. Come on now.
I understand the law. Educational
Lynn and then Ernest Green.
You get a differential between black and white.
I'll bang the gavel. Come on, Lynn.
Well, you're taking one element years ago in a situation that's entirely different than we're in today, and drawing some conclusions.
That's what's the difference.
No, there are many other things that are different. The enormous movement of black people in this country between 1948 and now, you can't just wipe that out. And you can't say that's. You certainly can't say that's the minimum wage.
But you know,
and that has an enormous amount.
I want this case made. Now, has the minimum wage served the interests of the working people of this country?
I don't think there's any question that the working people of this country would be much worse off than they are today. The youth of this country would be much worse off than they are today if we didn't have minimum wage.
Okay, now Bill Brady, come on.
Well, no, it's
minimum wage. Is it a good idea or not? You're an industrialist.
It's a bad idea. It is patently one of the worst things that we can do to our youth. We prevent them from.
How many kids do you hire?
What's that?
How many kids do you hire?
I have 2.
It's not important how many kids.
It is. Minimum wage doesn't affect his industry. His wages are far above the minimum wage.
Doesn't affect a single one of his members.
It affects people about
Come on, hold it. Milton has the floor.
We have not gone to support minimum wage legislation in this country.
Gentlemen, hold it a moment. Hold it a moment. Hold it a moment now.
Of course we have not. We are a people's organization.
The chairman has said the floor is Milton's.
I was saying that there's not a single one, I suspect, of the members of your union who is affected by the minimum wage rate. They're much higher. You say that you are a public service organization.
I say we're a people's organization.
You're an organization of your workers, and if you aren't representing the interests of your workers, they ought to fire you.
And we're out.
If you tell us that you are going against the interests of your workers, then you are simultaneously saying to your workers, I'm not doing what you hired me for.
This is pure sophistry.
It's not sophistry in the slightest.
I am not talking about representing the interests of our workers. Our union represents a lot of people.
Right.
And some of the people are the ones that you're probably aware of, the people who work in big steel mills and all the rest of it. But we also go out and organize workers all the time and win certification votes, despite Bill Brady's comment about that. And many of the workers we organize are workers who are affected by minimum wage. And the result of our organizing them is we're able to bring them above minimum wage.
And the point is that I think that both these gentlemen, we all should recognize, is that unions in the United States support the minimum wage. They're the major supporters, and they spend millions and millions of dollars in lobbying for the minimum wage law. Now, they do it out of the name of concern and being in the interest of people. Now, in South Africa, the unions are far more honest. That is, those white racist unions over there, they say we support minimum wages and equal pay for equal work so as to protect white jobs. That is, to protect white jobs from low-price competition.
But are you not implying that we're white racist unions?
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm saying that it doesn't make any difference about the intent.
Walter,
the effects are independent of intent.
Wage.
Ernest Green.
Well, they have heard
Ben Hooks of the NAACP supports minimum wage.
The floor belongs to Ernest.
The reason support minimum wage.
Why?
They represent middle-class blacks.
No.
They don't represent the poor blacks on the street.
The membership of the NAACP probably
and they're owned by the AFL-CIO.
They aren't owned by the AFL-CIO.
Order. The chairman says order.
Society you're presenting.
I'm going to turn to Milton now. Are you saying then that you would advocate the repeal of minimum wage legislation?
Of course.
You would?
Yeah. Of course I would.
Bill Brady.
I should like to ask Ernest and Lynn why they want to restrict a minimum price to labor. Why don't you let me have a minimum price on the products that we manufacture?
Well, we aren't here, as I understand it, to discuss your problems at the moment in terms of
well,
the owners.
Is there a difference? Why
well,
a minimum on a product?
You're the people, I assume, who are so anxious to have the free market system and to compete with each other and all the rest of it. We're talking about the needs of the workers. We're talking about the needs of the people who come into a society which isn't providing enough employment for them, which clearly doesn't seem to be able to provide enough employment for them, and what are we going to do? And I think this notion that somehow if we just let every guy who's running a hamburger stand or whatever, we just let all these people exploit the young people of this nation in any way they chose, pay them any little rate they could get away with, that everybody would then to go to work, everybody then have a job is absolute nonsense.
I want to bring Milton to one of the final stages of his film, which is on Spartanburg, South Carolina. Sure. And I want to know what conclusion you're drawing from that. Would you, in effect, like to see the whole of the United States become, as it were, Spartanburg writ large?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What would that mean? And then we'll get their reaction to it.
It would mean a widening of the opportunity for everybody. It would mean an opportunity for employers all over to compete with one another for workers. It would mean an opportunity for workers to find jobs which can make the greatest use of their own skills and their own capacities. It would mean that consumers would be able to get better products at lower prices. You know, consumers enter into this situation too. You might think that somehow or other, you know, one of the things that's always a mystery to me, if a $2.90 minimum wage benefits people, why wouldn't a $6 minimum wage be better? Wouldn't a $10 minimum wage be better? Why don't these people come out for a $200 a year minimum wage? If all you had to do is to make a country
$200 a year is pretty small.
$200 a day, an hour.
Or extended to babysitters.
Yeah, if all you need to improve the lot of conditions of people is to legislate a higher workforce.
No, you're back on minimum wages. I want to know how Spartanburg would
Spartanburg improves matters because it introduces a wider range of competition, and the real thing that protects a worker is the existence of alternative employers seeking his services, just as what protects a consumer is alternative sellers.
Milton, you omit one thing that it would do, and it would result in a very substantial increase in capital investment.
Absolutely, it would.
And capital is the worker's second best friend.